she's just amazing. Welcome to The Great Reboot. I'm Tori Ryden. Immigrants all over here in the US and Maine face some unique challenges during this COVID-19 pandemic. And our guest today really understands that. He himself was an immigrant. Alain Nahimana is originally from Burundi, and I want to welcome you to The Great Reboot. And Alain is the co-founder and executive director of the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center. He has also served as the coordinator for the Maine Immigrant Rights Coalition. So thanks so much for spending some of your time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Tori.
So Alain, I know that your time is precious and you've been spending a lot of it, I can imagine, on the phone, on Skype, with probably some very worried immigrants, members of the immigrant community. Tell us how things are going for you, and how are you spending your days, and are you concerned right now for the immigrant community?
Thanks for the question. I'm actually concerned about everyone, and starting by myself. I come from a war-torn country where you would hear gunshots from miles and miles. You just stay home, hoping you're safe and hoping you can still be able to flee and go further from the gunshots. But today, the danger comes from your own people you live with. For my kids, they go out for work, they come back. I don't know who they met. I don't know what they've touched. And I don't know if I go to the grocery store where I'm gonna get it. It's really a very blatant insecurity that nobody can control. So coming back to our immigrant communities, my thoughts always go to people who work in different jobs in the front lines. People work in environmental services in hospitals, where majority of them are immigrants. People work as DSP, that is support professionals. Most of them are immigrants. I have a friend who just been tested 2 days ago because a co-worker and 2 clients were tested positive. Those folks still go to work every day. I really can't stress out enough how courageous they are and how these current crises actually show how we're all in this together, and have revealed really true heroes across the world.
I think that you just nailed it right on the head, that, it doesn't discriminate. It goes everywhere, and it's everywhere around the globe. I find that just so poignant, that you must have learned how to, when you're avoiding the gunshots in Burundi, you must have learned how to go inwardly and to kind of live inside your home. A lot of people feel very uncomfortable being in their home kind of for long stretches of time.
So we call it, back home in French, we call it ville morte, which is dead city. So I never imagined I would be in a ville morte in the United States. Not for the same reasons, but that's what is happening. But mostly, Tori, is as we look at the toll, as much as the coronavirus, COVID-19 has been an equalizer, it's also has been a revealer somehow. If you look at some data coming out from other states around the racial disparities on who get affected, who dies, and who get access to a ventilator and stuff like that, it also reveals really the inequalities that we have in our society here in the United States. So Maine in particular doesn't report cases by race, but some other states who do that. It's really very revealing how Black communities and Latinos are really very much affected than any other group in this country.
Why do you think that is? I think no one's really kind of coming out with the reasons for that.
It's the economic disparities, the rare conditions, people who can't stop doing the job they're doing because that's their everyday life, that makes that happen. And also the kind of concentration density that is happening. It's not really particularly linked to biological being Black or being brown. It's the social and economic condition they live in. I mean, I'm also very concerned about, and we at the LWC have sent out our policy statement on the COVID-19 around making sure and ask for the implementation of the relief package to make sure communities are not left behind. You have a new regulations on unemployment that exists only in one language. You have people who can go anywhere to get support. So we've been helping people over the phone on virtual meetings to file their unemployment claims. You have small businesses owned by immigrants where people don't have the information they need because it's all in one language. It's not really like responding to the demographics we have. And ask that there be more educational kind of channels where people can know what they have right to or not. That's a challenge that we're trying to make sure that we do that advocacy work and to make sure people are aware of the existing relief options for the businesses or for themselves.
Language, as we know, Alain, is everything. And when you are able to master a language, particularly where you're living, you can go very far. And similarly, if you can't and haven't had the time to master that language or the opportunity, it puts you at a real disadvantage. And so I guess, you know, you're mentioning about advocacy, trying to reach people to help them to understand what's happening, particularly around COVID-19. So not just the financials that are going into it, and I'm talking about the small business loans, the PPPs that are being offered, but also, I would imagine, even more importantly, the dangers and all of the medical alerts that are going out and what people need to be doing and what they what they need to know to survive this. I guess I'm wondering, how are you helping to get that message to people? Because we have so many languages here throughout Maine. In Portland in particular, there are, I don't even know how many languages there are, but there are many, dozens.
On the healthcare piece, which is how to behave in this time, all the guidelines, some organizations have done a good job making translations. I would say the City of Portland Office of Economic Opportunity, Catholic Charities have actually shared enough translations of the guidelines, which I think have reached out to many individuals in the community. But today, what's happening is actually information coming from everywhere, from social media to press conferences, where there's a lot of contradictions about what's happening, what to expect. It's a health crisis that is really tough to handle and to live in. Outside of fear and outside of maybe, I would say really very weird how do you get a test? What determines that you get a test, someone else doesn't get a test?
Mm-hmm.
So clear on how it works. So I would say that amid of that, it's also an economic crisis where people have really to think of how they rebound, both as businesses, as individuals, and think about the future. How do we react moving forward in terms of public health infrastructure, in terms of how do we rethink about foreign trained healthcare professionals that we've been talking about them for a long time. So in terms of getting our workforce ready, how do we tap into the talent of foreign trained professionals in healthcare industry or elsewhere? We have to rethink all in terms of where do we stand as a country, as a state. We also think about access to healthcare. I also go further than that because it's part of our mission. Citizenship and civic engagement is key. During this time, how do we continue to get outreach to our communities to make sure they're counted for the census? These will not wait. This is not something they're going to cancel.
Mm-hmm.
People need to be able to be counted to make sure we have the means we need in the state to move forward.
Yeah, all of the supports in place. I'm curious your take on this, and it seems to me that this COVID-19 has really opened the door for real leaders to step forward. leaders in their communities, just different pockets in neighborhoods, people to take a leading role. And I'm curious how that works out in the immigrant community. I mean, what happens to people who have just gotten here, who are asylum seekers, who are just coming in? And you know, I worry so much about what happens to people who kind of show up on our doorstep amid all of this.
So, I mean, I think that this is a situation where some people have come recently, some were maybe already housed somewhere. The general assistance program has been available to provide the counseling they need, to provide them the assistance they need. But mostly understanding what's happening, meaning where you go next. Everything is closed. So there have been a lot of situations and decisions made, for example, by USCIS to actually making, as they closed, to change the deadlines of some of the stuff they do. But I would say that it's really complicated. People knew when you have a problem, you go to see a case worker. So I know many organizations that do case work and case management, they are still receiving people over the phone. There's a lot of people stepping up in the community and do the work they need to do. The other good thing is that some of the immigrant communities actually have a grassroots organization, ethnic-based grassroots organizations that have their own communication channels and some kind of culture of solidarity, helping each other. Really, people have stepped up and are doing great work to support each other.
Has the Greater Portland Immigrant Welcome Center, are you still, you know, pretty much operating and helping people out? So if they needed to get to a resource such as what you're just describing, that they could reach them through you?
Offices are closed. We really follow the guidelines in terms of social distancing and staying home. We have 2 floors with many organizations working there. That would have been really impossible to keep the doors open and keep it safe. But our phone line is still open, and we get people and we try to guide them. We help people with unemployment claims. We send them information around the paycheck protection program. We just did a full week of campaign outreach on Facebook around the census. And we hope to continue doing this work. It's all about how you pivot and be helpful to the community. We have some work that cannot wait, and keep working with other organizations.
I think that's an excellent way of putting it, which is how to pivot and really kind of pivot and then you know, just kind of shift and look at things in a little different way. Can you? Why don't you provide, if you would, Alain, the phone number, if you have it, and the website information, so if people are watching this and they want to check it out, and they want some resources, they can find them that way.
Our website is www.welcomeimmigrant.org, and our phone number is 207-517-3401.
Alain, I think that one of the biggest needs potentially, and in addition to health care, is food. And I'm wondering, are you finding, you know, are you hearing stories within the immigrant community of people who are in need of food, and how's that being handled, and are the needs big?
The needs are big, both in Portland, in Lewiston as well. The organization is doing a great work. What we've been doing is actually some of our donors channeling some of their donation through us, and we will forward them to those who need them, who are doing the work and do the warehousing and this kind of stuff. We didn't want to duplicate, but we actually reach out to potential donors and support those efforts done by the organizations.
Give us the perspective of an immigrant. Is it difficult asking for help? Is it one of those things that, you know, that an immigrant will not? I mean, were you horrified when you saw people hoarding toilet paper and all of those supplies and things? Is that different? Is there a different mindset? And not to generalize, but I'm just curious if there's a different mindset around the immigrant needs and all of that.
I would just give a perspective of this home care caregiver, where she said I have two kids. One of them has asthma. I have a mom who has pre-existing conditions I live with. I have to go to work every day. And I feel like I cannot give up going to work because those kids with autism that I will take care of need us to be at work. There is the immediate family risk, but also the responsibility that you have to do your work because the community needs you. So I would say all those material things actually can come up and go, but bottom line is the deep challenges that we have now, whether you're going to survive, whether someone close to you going to survive or not. That's what I'm hearing from the community.
I mean, that is heartbreaking.
Yep. But I also have to say that we're lucky to be in Maine. I would say we have a decision has been made quickly, and we have a system where we have access to healthcare so far. So, and then I think there is this whole sense of community that we find in Maine that maybe we won't find anywhere else so easily. That has been very helpful, I would say.
Well, I was going to ask you about the community, the immigrant community. Do you feel that the immigrant community will come out stronger as a result of this whole pandemic? Is there anything that ties people a little bit closer?
So I think situations are very different. I just heard yesterday that IDEX has reduced 10% of the wages to the employees, and I'm sure most of them who work there are being affected, immigrants. So there is a lot of bunch of issues immigrants face in general that this didn't need to come up of them. People who are still in the legal limbo on the immigration cases. There's the fear that people have recently with ICE. There is the whole situation going on with people doing jobs that don't match their skill set. So people who would be more doing jobs more rewarding for their families. So there is now people being laid off who are not sure they're going to get back into jobs. So there's all those challenges I think that are tough, where organizations such as ours have to rethink how we address the problems people have post the crisis, health crisis or not. That is really something we need to look at and bring up conversations around. Okay, how do we get more ready? How do we correct things and readjust and be able to help individuals? When we talk about naturalization, when you look at all the barriers that people have because they cannot file with the Social Security, they're not eligible for any relief package. They have an ITIN number. So all this really bring forward that naturalization is a big issue and can be very, very bad in a situation of crisis, as we see. There are those issues that are part of our mission already that I think we need to rethink how we address them in a way that there's more proactive agenda to change outcomes in our communities.
You had mentioned ICE, and this is not a political show, but I'm just curious. I've seen a couple of reports that ICE has kind of lowered some of their, they've lessened some of their, I don't want to say behaviors, but what they've done is because of the pandemic that it's kind of lessened, their aggression is lessened a little bit. Is that accurate, or are these inaccurate reports?
Yes, the US made a statement that they don't want to be making arrests and then that people can go and feel safe to go and seek medical attention. That has been done, but you look at the detention in immigration facilities that's still there and still endangering the lives of people living there. People who have no other crime than being in a situation where the immigration status needs to be decided upon. So there's still some areas where they could improve.
Mm-hmm. But people should not. I guess the reason I'm saying this is if anybody's watching right now and is afraid of going to seek medical help for fear of ICE, that right now they're pretty protected.
Pretty protected. But at the same time, when you think of the public rule charge, Well, actually, there hasn't been yet a kind of formal statement by the government around that if you go seek attention, medical attention now, it won't be against you, according to the public rule. So I think there's still a lot of work, advocacy work that needs to be done to make sure that people are safe now and are safe in the future.
Okay. And what would you like to share with people? What's a message you'd like to get out there, um,
I would say
of
that
hope or?
there's been a great work being done in a partisan way towards the CARES Act that we need to really applaud, even though it's not perfect. But at the same time, my biggest challenge is like, how do we learn from what's happening? It's okay to hit a wound, but if you don't really alleviate the causes of what happened and how do we move forward with a bigger picture than that, that has revealed the weaknesses of our public health system, the weakness of our economy, the weakness of our the weakness brought by the inequalities existing in our society. How do we address that? And how do we work from data? Because Tori, it's tough to do any advocacy work. We don't have any numbers.
Right.
Say like data on immigrants or on communities of color really are not that much. That really doesn't help a lot. It becomes more political or perceived as political a statement when actually if we had data, we could actually have something to show that this is what is happening. This is the reality. You have 60% of people sick in Chelsea, Massachusetts, all are Latinos. That's a fact. Where do you go from there?
Have you been in contact with any of your family or friends back in Burundi? And I'm wondering if COVID-19 has, crept into their communities and how they're handling it.
I'm very worried about friends and relatives in Burundi because we have a government that I would say it doesn't really respond positively to the guidelines by the WHO and others. So, but I have a friend in Kinshasa who passed in Congo. My mom is safe in San Diego, California so far. So, but we're ready. I mean, personally, I'm saying that I'm ready to anything that can happen. Me myself, I'm not feeling safe enough.
Alain, I just want to thank you so much for your leadership, what you're doing for the immigrant community, for everybody. And I appreciate your hopefulness and all of the resources that you're providing. You're really doing a great service for so many people.
Well, thank you, Tori and Reggie. I really appreciate the work you're doing in these times. Having this opportunity to share what you're all going through in our communities is actually a way of staying together and getting ready to rebound together. I really appreciate the work you do.